Yeah. Okay, look at the Torah, Acharei, page 50. Mamash, the last 3 words on the page. Okay, the Rabbi is explaining that there's a fire and the fire needs fuel, and that's Torah mitzvahs. And he says Torah mitzvahs is divided into 3 levels. Torah Aveda Gemil Sodom, which is Machshava Dibur Amaisa, which is the level of the 3 Eilamis. And he says that davening is the level of Machshava because it has to do with the Kavanah. The only reason why you speak is to be murdered the Kavanah. L'chein mamish page chavav on top. L'chein b'makam ha'kabanis. Therefore, davening is instead of kabanis because what's avedis a kabanis so plui b'kahana was dependent on the kohanim be'uvda with aveda u'berusa the live with the will of the heart, like it says in the Zayah. What does it mean? What's the level of davening? Shitei kavanah say machshavte. His kavanah in his thought should be dvuka b'Hashem. To be connected, clinging to Hashem, lias merkava, elav to be completely bottled. Limbs and nafshu to give over our will and desires to Hashem. Lias leirakrot and echad v'lev echad. To have only one will, one heart. La'aviv shebashmaim to Hashem in heaven. Shalelahafrim yichud devachtos yizbarich. Not to be separated from Hashem. How do you do this? Aydei sumei ravasi teif. When you break evil. As a then the lukus is revealed on the soul. So what's the inyan of davening? Davening is the concept of kavanah, to have only one will, the will only for Hashem. Therefore the Chachamim institute Birchas HaShachar, the morning brachas. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. So why? What's the inyan? Where you're asking Shiyom shebechinas havaya. Baruch to bring down the level of atah havaya, that it should come melech ha'olam, that this level of Yudkei Vavkei should come and give life to the world. Shlo yuvsech chayusim v'kayumim. That shouldn't stop the chayus of Elokus, because we learned before the only thing that keeps Elokus in the world is the food, the fuel, and that's Torah mitzvahs. So what are we davening? That there should be continuous Torah mitzvahs, the godliness should stay in the world, otherwise the world won't exist. And the godliness shouldn't leave. Like the nature of fire, that this level of Havaya should become Elokeinu, meaning we should internalize it. When you say Elokeinu, it means this is our God. Our means we own it. It's one with us. Not that, and that's why Havaya, there's no such thing as our Havaya. It just doesn't exist. Because Hashem is Seviv Kol Almin. That can't be internalized. But we're asking this Havaya should become Elokeinu, ours. To be completely bottled. That it's ours. Ours means we own it. Like it says Elokeinu. Like it says Elokei Avram. Why is Hashem called the God of Avram? He's the God of everybody. What does it mean Elokei Avram? Because he's a Merkava. Because Avram Avinu is completely bottled to Hashem 24/7. It shouldn't be a separate entity. This that Hashem gives existence to the world. Al-Treb is alluding to a question. If we want to bring down Elokus into the world, that the world should be Elokeinu, our Elokus, so then why isn't the world bottled? World should be bottled. So he says that the only reason why Hashem made Eli is yesh v'dam b'fnei atzmei mipnei hayesim melech shmei nikar aleim, because it's melech ha'olam. A king ain't melech b'layam. A king can't be a king over nobody. Not only that, you can't be a king over your own children, because the definition of king means foreigners that are subjugated to the king. If they're your children, they're not foreigners. They're an extension of you. So because Hashem wants to be a melech, So therefore it has to be Mloshen Eimemis. Dvarim Zodim v'nifradim, separate entities. Shem yeh lohodam harbe banim. A guy can have 3,000 kids. A nikra shmei melech aleim. You can't be there's not a king over them because, again, the definition of a king is a foreigner that's bottled. Kids are an extension of the parents. Masha'en kin Yisrael nikra banim lamokim. The Yidden therefore are called banim lamokim. The father is the son is the foot of the father. Okay? So therefore like this. Really, the reality is we bring down a lokus that the world should be completely bottled to Hashem. Why does the world seem to be a separate entity? Because Hashem wants to be a king. In order to be a king, there has to be foreigners. If the whole world would be bottled, there'd be on a level of children in that sense. So this existence of the world, like you said before, the continuous creation is Hashem's existence in the world to give chayis to the world. Who makes that happen? Who feeds? Who's the zookeeper that feeds the things? We bring down alukus. He is betel melov to be bottled. Because the neshama is why Hashem created the world. In other words, the real kavana, not the external will. The real will is dira b'tachtein. So therefore, the real kavanah is for Yidden to do Torah. That's the premise of kavanah. It's like a guy wants to work, but the work is not the ultimate goal. He really wants to make money. In order to make money, he wants to work. But the kavanah, the premise, is he wants to make money. Bottom line. So therefore, the ultimate purpose of the Neshamas Yisrael. The Gemara says, just like you can't have the world without air and directions, why? What keeps the world's existing? Meaning, bottom line is, what keeps the fire holding on to the wick? That Hashem comes into the world and stays there, that's our feeding it, our fueling it, which is Yidden doing Torah mitzvahs. It's a commercial of a body which is dependent on the life of the nefesh habamis. Because if there's something wrong with the nefesh that gives us life, the whole person becomes sick. If there's no proper hamshacha, if there's no proper revelation of the neshama into the guf, the body is sick. In other words, in order for the neshama to function properly in the body has to be bottled to the neshama. A healthy person, we learned many times, does not feel himself. You don't feel you have a hand, a stomach, a head. Then that's a healthy person. A sick person feels the stomach. I have a pain here, a pain there, and a pain there. That's the lack of bittul, because now you're feeling yourself.
That's what the first day of matzah is.
First day matzah munah, and the second day is healing.
If you have enough munah, you don't need this.
I'm saying if you have proper amunah, then you're not sick. Pirush, what does it mean? Bringing down Hatah Havaya Sheyivorech v'Yumshach. That Shem Havaya Liyahav Kol Hanimtsoyim. That Hashem should Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which means creator, should come down into all the existence. Aydei She'alonu B'chinas Elokeinu. Through Elokeinu, and then it could be Melech Ha'olam. So this is the text of the bracha. We should bring down Havaya. How? By Elokeinu, by becoming ours, our Avodah, and through this it becomes Melech Ha'olam. Shema, but every bracha. And the Chachamim instituted every morning. There's Kimachadish B'Tuva B'Chayim Tom and Ma'aseh Bereishis. Because every day, b'chol yom tamid, every day Hashem renews creation. And Hashem creates him from the absolute nothing into something. You can't find a mashal in Gashmis for this concept, that the Eibishter renews creation constantly. Laharis b'chush, to see it clearly. Rak efes could say a little bit, shebachol yom meir micheshech halayla, that every day from night becomes morning. Chassidus explains, we know in creation, vayi erev, vayi boker yom echad. There was evening, there was morning, and it became a day. So we know, according to Yiddishkeit, at least after Matan Torah, first was night, and then was day. Why didn't David to create the world day first and then night?
Because he needed to create the light first.
I'm saying, so why didn't he make day first and then night? Why did he make night first and then day? So the answer is, because the whole purpose of creation is to take Erev, make it Yom Echad. To make Erev into Boker, make night, darkness, evil, into light, and then make it Yom Echad.
Also, if there is no darkness, there is more possibility for the light to show its existence.
Yeah, but Hashem could have made the world first day and then make night.
Oh, and then bring light.
That's similar to Yesh Miyayin. Making darkness into light is Yesh Miyayin. You're changing its form completely. That this is the beginning of creation. Rosh Hashanah, the world was created, and therefore therefore every year, remember we learned, you have to re-coronate the king. So that happens officially once a year, but it happens daily, and it happens every second. Therefore, what do we need to say every day? Baruch Atah Hashem. Okay, so meanwhile, the Alter Rebbe says like this. The Alter Rebbe is explaining that the three pillars of the world, Torah, Veda, Gemeres, Chasadim, is the three levels of Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa, right? So he says, what's davening? Bria. Bria is Machshava, that's davening. Davening is revealing Elokos into the world. Then you have Yitzartiv, the second level, that's the level of Dibur. What is forming? Because you think, so even though you think in letters, but they're not identified clearly as letters as much as it is in speech. Speech, you formulate the thought in pronounced letters. That's making the thought into a form.
Yeah.
You're taking matter and making it into form. Thought is more matter. Now you're taking the matter, making it into form. But speech is not the same yesh miyayin. It's not the same yesh miyayin that thought is. Because higher than thought, there are no letters at all. And then it becomes letters. Here, it's letters just a little bit more identified, a little bit more formed.
So thought is in higher form?
Of course thought is higher than speech. And it's only like tzura, the formation of it. Which is which is the chaymer to the tzura v'neged atayra shika mitzvasim b'dibur. So therefore the second aveda is the world of Yitzira, the level of dibur, that's Talmud Torah. Learning Torah. Torah has to be in speech. They could say v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba. Or it says v'gitz b'yem v'layla. And the Gemara says the Karmel and here to lav kedibur domi. Okay, so you're not allowed to be, you can't be yaitz to learning Torah if you're learning by yourself just thinking about it. It has to come into verbal, you have to verbalize it. So l'cheira, based on what he said now, davening is machshava and bria, and Torah learning is dibur and yitzira. L'cheira Bria is higher than Yetzirah, which should imply davening is higher than Torah. So the Alter Rebbe asks, Gam shemaylas ha-Torah eila mayla al maylas ha-tefillah, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. L'cheira, but it doesn't make sense, because Torah is higher than tefillah. So it happens to be a lower world. So he says, Achad Rabba, fi shemaylos sebim keira. Because Torah and the source is greater, b'ratzanan baruch nikas stimen chol stimen, i'ef shelekabel eira. He says, because Torah is so great, in order to handle it, it has to come down lower, 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 because otherwise it's the greater revelation, it has to come down lower. The higher the thing, the lower it comes. Like Chassidus, there's an expression, Chassidus, there's a Yiddish expression, it's felt in hasbara, felt in havana. If it's lacking in an explanation, you're lacking understanding. If you can't explain it well, the old Yiddish Torah saying, if you can't explain it well, that means you don't understand it. The ultimate brilliant scholar, you saw by the Rebbe has a whole article about it. The Rebbe took the deepest aspects of Chassidus, mamish the deepest, and brought it down to a level that everybody can understand it. That is, sometimes you have a brilliant professor, he can't talk to the masses. He can't lower itself. That's not a greatness of seichel. On the contrary, the ultimate greatness of seichel is when you could lower it to the lowest of levels. That means you understand it so well. What?
Then there's a problem Moshe had. Moshe couldn't count the masses.
According to Chassidus, because Moshe Rabbeinu was so great, until Matan Torah, after Matan Torah he was healed. Everybody was healed in Matan Torah. But until Matan Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu was such a high madrega. You know, people stutter because the mind works faster than the mouth. I mean, that's one of the reasons people stutter, because the mind is working quicker than the mouth. Right? So therefore, you can't limit it to speak clearly.
Everybody's now stuff that works faster than the mind works.
No, not
Of course the mind works faster than about it. The question is to what extent.
control it.
The Rebbe, Mittel Rebbe would write so fast that if the guy didn't put another piece of paper under it, he would write on the table. And the Rebbe explains it doesn't mean that he wrote fast. The Rebbe explained in many sikhs. It doesn't mean Mittel Rebbe wrote fast. It means his writing was so bottled to his mind, it worked as quick as the mind did. So it's a whole different concept. And
In this formula that you say, davening, Torah study, and which one comes first, which one?
davening is,
Yeah. Where is the googly goo come? In
which one?
Google.
Googly goo.
Kukuriku?
Yeah.
That comes
Where is
above
that?
essence.
It actually reaches.
That's not thought, that's not speech, that's essence. When the kids scream kukuriku,
Yeah, that's right.
that came from the essence above thought, above speech, above seichel, above midas, above everything.
And if he doesn't practice it, the essence will go away.
Which essence?
The essence that we just spoke
Here, that brings down the essence.
No. In this mushroom,
In kukuriku,
yes.
you don't practice it. It's practicing is a premeditated sin. Essence can come from premeditated. If it's premeditated, it's already seichel amidas. Essence has to come spontaneous. Yes. It has to come because once it's premeditated, there's a word in Chumash that says, it speaks about a city that worships idols. So the Pasha said, the Rashta, Bezdin has to make a drisha, the Chakira means make a full inquiry. The Rashta v'chakarta heitev, Bezdin has to make a proper looking into it. V'nei emes nochen adover, if it's true. If it's nochen adover, if it's true. Nesa te'eva zeis b'Yisrael, this abomination was done, you have to take out the city and kill the whole city. Right? By year and dachel, by avodah zarah. So Chassidim say that refers to a farbrengen. V'dorashta, you made a good speech. V'chakarta, made a good chakira, you made a good philosophical concept. But hine emes nochen hadavar, if you prepared it, hachani. If you prepared it, nesa te'eva zeis b'Yisrael is an abomination. Because a farbrengen has to come from the heart. It has to be essence. It has to be spontaneous. If it's prepared, then it's premeditated. It's not you talking. It's your mind talking, your heart talking, your gaiva talking.
That's why you have
But
to
it's
have a
not the...
Isn't that the reason you have a little bit of shot?
To loosen up, yeah.
Not to get wrong.
No, God forbid.
I'm always there. I don't need shot.
Huh?
I'm always there.
I know. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Okay, yes, you have Shilkaba, Kol Yaakov. Therefore, Torah has to be with speech, because Torah has to come into Gashmis. Shebem Yisla B'Sher V'Aya Ganu B'Torah Mer B'Chinas Gilui Lachis Kol Elam Mitzayenu V'Tachteinu. Okay? Ukiyadu Liyedechenu, it's known to the Mekubalim. Shekol Dvar Elyon Ma'id, something which is super lofty. Ein Abali De Gili Eire Ela Lamata B'Seif Ma'isa. Seif Ma'isa B'Machshava Tchila. Okay? Not Tchilasim B'Seif, and the beginning is wedged in the end. Because like it's known according to Kabbalah, the higher the source, the lower down it has to come. So therefore, this that Torah comes into Dibur is not because it's lower, but on the contrary, because Torah is higher, it needs to come down lower. The whole Hemshech of the Rebbe Rashab of Ranat, we learned many times. Most of the Hemshech of Ranat, Tov Shnun and Tes, is the Rebbe Rashab explaining, he has the beginning of the Hemshech, he has the question, if speech is lower than thought, how is it possible that when you want to learn something and you speak it, you understand it better than thought? We know when you speak something, you understand it better. So if thought is higher than speech and speech is lower than thought, you should understand things from a high thought. So the whole Hemshech of Ranat is explaining Dibur as Malchus, and Malchus is the lowest, but it's the highest, and all the whole thing, and therefore Dibur makes things happen. What? Oh. Asisiv, and then you have the third level, Asiyo, that's the level of Tzedakah. That's understood. The Alter Rebbe doesn't have to explain what it means, giving Jenga money. Pool. What's the difference? Just give it. Through these three avodas, Torah, avodah Gemilas Chesadim, or Machshava Dibur Ma'isa, we bring upon or Avaya. The Yitzhar Nechaz Kamei Al Derech Moshe, that the fire should hold into the wood, like the wick or the wood. Ukamei Shanu Reim Sha'er and Nechaz Be'etzim. Now you have even in fire, you have a little flame, and then you have a big fire. Now in a little candle, you have a refined flame. And a bonfire, you have a big flame, because the wood is coarser. The wood is thicker. Based on the thickness of the fuel, that's what it is. But it's thick. The problem with a big fire like that, it's much thick. Huh?
It is a bird.
No. It's a good simon, yeah. But this that it holds onto a wick, who are mut is a little bit, but it's edel, it's fine. Who are mut she'ein polasi bizgal kol kach. Lachi saying the same thing. Machshava is much more refined Again, all these three to machshava dibur ma'isa bring the fuel down, so it brings the fire down. So the thought of machshava is much more refined. Kamei pulas ha'ma'isa v'dibur b'talmud Torah. The akimas vasav have a ma'isa, which then word. He said before, thought is not speech, but speech is action. U'kamei shama kos v'yayim la'seisem. Because this is, the Alter Rebbe is going back to the original question, why the neshama comes down into the world. He said the purpose of the neshama laham shechur havai b'chinas gilui merei ma'maylas atsefa ma'isif from the highest levels to the lowest. Aval hashros havai b'machshava, the resting of Hashem in thought. And therefore he says, but the advantage of action and speech is this. You see the effect of a bonfire's fire much more than the little candle's fire. What? What are you worried about? He wants to hear Chassidus. It's probably a gilgul of somebody that didn't learn Chassidus.
By the way, this is how we believe in Torah.
By the way, this is Torah, not Stam Persian.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they used to say...
It says one of the reasons you eat fish on Shabbos is because neshamas of tzaddikim come back as a fish, many of them, for whatever reason. And when you eat fish on Shabbos, you elevate the neshamas of those tzaddikim. That says in brought down the Svarim in Allah. Okay, anyway. So therefore, it's not as noticeable as the feet. In other words, speech is much more tangible than thought, and action, walking, is much more tangible than you see the whole body moving. But nevertheless, the head is the primary chayas. But you need both. In other words, Torah is not enough, tefillah is not enough, tzedakah is not enough. You need all three. And therefore he says, you can't have the world standing on two columns. If you have a table with three legs, yeah, you can't take away one of the legs. You need all three legs. It's the same thing. You need Torah, Veda, and Gemilas Chasadim. You need all three. Okay.